Now, Simon, you've won almost every award in the advertising space for creativity around the world. What are some of the key tips you give to entrepreneurs looking to become a market leader?
Well, I think that first of all, it's a mental paradigm, and then it's a strategy. So the mental paradigm is they've got to really look 3 years ahead and say what do they want to be. They have to have a clear vision of what their positioning is going to be and what their company is going to be like. And then you get down to the strategy of how to do that. And I think that it's as simple and as difficult as concentrating on a niche. It's very hard to be all things to all people, but most entrepreneurs, business builders can't resist trying to do that. So it's staking a claim for a particular part of the market and devoting yourself to being the best at it, and then you'll end up on top.
What are some of the tips that you give entrepreneurs in order to pick a niche and really drill down into it?
Well, I think, there's an old Chinese saying, he who chases after two rabbits catches neither. And I think they've just literally got to get the numeral 1, put it on a post-it note and put it on their computer. And so they just say, I'm going to do one thing and I'm going to do one thing well. Now, what happens is they look at a lot of successful companies that are huge and they see that they do many things. But what they don't realize is how they became successful was not doing that. They owned the niche and they became an expert at it. We're in an environment where there's just so much competition. Unless you specialize, unless you focus, why should anyone go to you? Because you're just going to be an also-ran.
What do you think some of the key areas are for business owners to focus on when going into a new venture?
Well, I believe this, and I think this is a critical point. I think that probably 70% of your time in the first year of a new business should be spent on sales and marketing. And that's not the case. The research shows that around 11% of a business owner's time is spent on sales and marketing. But that's the stuff that keeps you alive. That's the stuff that gets the cash flow happening. That's the stuff that actually builds your business. But we get stuck having meetings and talking to staff and doing all this peripheral stuff like emails that is not actually generating new income. Now, after the first year, then you can look at expanding. But straight off, you've got to develop an excellent marketing system. And most businesses don't have it in their first year, and they don't even have it in their 20th year because they haven't spent the time focusing on that originally.
Now, you mentioned entrepreneurs spending 70% of their time on sales and marketing. What are some tips you give entrepreneurs in order to help them develop and attract new clients?
Well, I'm a huge believer in recency and frequency, and there's a lot of research on this that shows that often it's the recency and the frequency with which you have contacted a client that gets you that client, that gets you on the short list or gets you the top of mind awareness that makes them want to ring you or to go and buy your product or service. So you need to have, I think the most important thing is a calendar of contact points so that you know that over the course of 12 months, you're going to be hitting your target market this many times or in this many ways. And as a corollary of that, as an extension of that, I think it's absolutely important that you have multiple ways to get customers. If you take your average business, they only have 1 or 2 ways that they get customers in. If you can move it up to 6 ways, then you don't have to be even brilliant at your job. You're going to be getting so many customers simply because the funnels are so excellent of customers into your business.
I remember you telling me a story about you doing that at the Photon Group. You'd systemized the marketing, so often you'd have clients coming back to you, but you didn't even realize you were marketing to them. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, yeah, about 10 years ago, I was in advertising and I wasn't getting enough clients, and I went and saw this expert on sales processes, and he instilled the whole concept of multiple contact points. And we moved it up to, I think, from clients hearing from us once a year to clients hearing from us 16 times a year. And that's everything from getting articles that were useful, we may have sent them that, or phone calls, or presentations, or inviting them to lunch, or sending them gifts, or sending them books, or giving them a birthday card, etc., etc., etc. So they heard from us, and we're talking about 400 potential clients. It's your typical price of your clients, probably $1 million they'd spend with you in advertising. So 400 clients with the potential to spend $1 million or more. hearing from us this many times. And what happened was, numerous times we'd be put on shortlists for big accounts simply because we recently contacted them when they wanted to look for a new ad agency. So recency and frequency is a very simple thing, but it works.
And so how do you systemize that so it's not always the entrepreneur driving it?
Well, I think that's a terrific question. You know, so many people start off with the intention of doing this, and then of course they get busy a month later and don't do it. And look, I think they're very simple systems. First of all, it should be diarised that I'm spending this amount of time on this day per week working on contact with clients. And in fact, if it isn't diarised, the way most entrepreneurs are, they're being so busy, it's highly unlikely to get done. And then, second of all, there should be an accountability structure. So they should have somebody, whether it's a friend of theirs or a coach or someone else in the organisation, whose job is to make sure that they do a certain amount per month on a particular day. And when it's rigorously scheduled like that, then it's going to happen.
Now, you've managed to develop quite a heavy online presence. What are some of the tips you give to people with websites or avid bloggers to attract advertisers to their websites?
Well, I mean, the company that I'm chairman of has 30,000 websites in Australia. So it's not done with humans. It's purely done with online with links to other websites. It's done with pay-per-click advertising. And then it's outsourced. The only human part of it is telemarketing. But we're different from your average website in that we're a lot of directories. So we're lawyers.com.au or plumbers.com.au or all these kind of directory sites. So we're a replacement to the Yellow Pages in many ways. I think the rules would be different for a more developed content website that the average person would have.
Online is such a growing space. How do we as small business owners utilise the internet to deliver us business?
Well, I think that first of all, they've got to decide what they want the result of someone visiting their website to be. Now, most people's website is just a brochure. I mean, literally, if it was in print form, it'd be no different from a brochure. It doesn't particularly persuade anybody to do anything. And I think the biggest mistake made in websites is that they're trying to sell something with a brochure instead of trying to capture an email address. The truth is that most people aren't purchasing much stuff from the internet. They're going on the internet for information. So what you want to do is give them quality information, not just a few lines, but deep information. So if they want to read, they really can get all the reasons why your product or service is best. And then you want to capture their email address. So you want to have a little box that offers them a free report, or offers some discounts, or offers an incentive, or offers them a newsletter. Some reason for them to leave their email address behind. And once you do that, you've got something to work with. You've got a mailing list, you've got a herd, you've got a group of people who are interested in your product or service. And for the next few weeks, months and years, you can drag them in. The truth is, we've got to move from interruption marketing, which is your typical ad on radio or a newspaper that's interrupting you, to permission marketing, where people give permission for you to contact them because they want to hear from what you've got to say. Now, that involves a shift from trying to sell something to trying to help people. If your website is about helping people, a lot of people are going to go on your website, and a lot of people are going to sign up to your e-newsletter or e-report. But if you're just trying to sell them, well, they're just going to click it and go on to the next site.